All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. And as we all agreed, um, as we all agreed, today we will discuss about the first chapter, the summary. We completed the entire first chapter verse by verse. And before we go into the second chapter, in case if anyone is missing any verses or any gap or something to cover all of that, we thought of to discuss a little bit more about this first chapter. So, especially the first chapter, when we started, um, we mentioned that the first chapter is what actually a problem defining. So in the material world, we already know, right? What do we say? If we thoroughly understand our problem, 50% of the solution is already there. So the remaining 17 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is depending on this first chapter. Why Krishna spoke like that? So where did it all started? It all started in the first chapter. So we should know first chapter, even though many people, oh, there is nothing in the first chapter, no philosophy. And yes, in fact, there is no philosophy in first chapter. There is nothing there in first chapter. But if we go more deep, we really see the reason for Arjuna's lamentation. That is why this chapter is titled as in Sanskrit, Samacharya says, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the lamentation of Arjuna. And some, commentators or acharyas use, see, Sainya Nirikshana Yoga. That is exactly Prabhupada. If you look at it here on the screen, observing the armies on the battlefield. This is Sainya Nirikshana Yoga. So, is observing it. So, if we really see it, this chapter is having both actually. This chapter is having both. 1 to 26, verse number 1 to 26. What do we see? Verse number 1 to 26, all he is talking about Arjuna observing, or Duryodhana defining, who are all present in the battlefield. In other words, basically, the setting of the war. The setting of the war. So who present? Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Vikarna, Satiki, Yudha, many names, right? At least 30, 40 names were discussed in the first chapter alone. And who are all, which side they are fighting, and who blow what conch shell, and what kind of flags they are wearing. All has been defined in the first chapter. So we may ask, why this much detailed Sanjay is explaining? This is not Arjuna is speaking or Krishna is speaking. This is Sanjaya is speaking, right? So first Dhritarashtra said, and then Sanjaya said. This is Sanjaya speaking. So I borrowed some of the statistics from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, to give for all of you. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu very nicely explained the overall setting of this first chapter. Very nicely he gave all the statistics, like who speaks how many times and all of it. So in case if you are not familiar with it, I just borrowing his lines. And out of 700 verses, this we discussed one time in the previous. Anyone remember how many verses Krishna spoke? How many verses of 700 Krishna spoke in Bhagavad Gita? Even if you don't know exact number, you can guess.
Around 450 or 490.
Okay, let us say 450 to 490. Anyone else?
Around 500, Prabhu.
Okay, around 500. Okay. You increase to 10. Anyone else? Many people are there, you can guess too, right? Pick any number out of 1 to 700.
520, Prabhuji.
Okay, good. 520. So it is increased from 450 to 490 to 500 to 520. Anyone else?
574, Prabhuji.
Yes. So who said 574?
Me, Prabhuji. Priya.
Okay. You just reduced one. I think Firoz Prabhu said 575. Is that correct, Firoz Prabhu?
574 I told Prabhuji.
Oh, okay.
I shared one table before in this group.
Okay. So the exact number is 575.
Yeah.
Out of 700, 575 verses were spoken by Krishna. Now the remaining 125 verses. We know that here itself we can see Dhritarashtra, the first words itself spoken by Dhritarashtra. That means Dhritarashtra spoke only once. And the second one who spoke? Sanjaya. We see Sanjaya spoken often in there. So most of the Sanjaya's words are in first chapter. And what other chapter he spoke? This is one chapter. Where else we can see the Sanjaya? Especially we have some Mataji,
Summarize or something, right? But towards the end.
Towards the end also he has some, but what other places we see it very prominently, we know that. Especially
Okay.
Sarada Mataji, I think Bhakti Shastri people should know this one. The very beginning of the second chapter itself, Sanjaya starts, right? The very first verse itself is Sanjaya. So the second chapter speaks too. And the 11th chapter he speaks too. So 1 to 11. And also in 18th chapter, at the end of that chapter, he speaks too. So if we look at it, Sanjaya is the second person after Dhritarashtra. So Sanjaya, he speaks 41 verses. So one Dhritarashtra, Sanjaya speaks 41. So 41 plus 1, that is 42. So Krishna spoke 575, Sanjaya speak 41, Dhritarashtra spoke 1. So the remaining spoken by Arjuna. Anyone know how many Arjuna spoke now? What is that number? So
83.
Yes, 83. So Arjuna, he speaks 83 verses. So these are the numbers especially. And also very interesting is Bhagavad Gita is a Shruti or a Smriti? Anyone familiar with what is Shruti and what is Smriti?
Smriti
Remembering.
something, right? Shruti is listening, and Bhagavad Gita is kind of in both the aisle, Shruti as well as Smriti, because it was told by somebody and we are listening. That's what my understanding. Correct me, Prabhuji.
Okay. So first number one, Shruti. Shruti. Shruti means what? Listening, right? Listening. So what exactly, who is speaking, who is listening? So Krishna is speaking, Arjuna is listening. That's why it is Shruti. Same way, Vedas. Vedas were spoken by the Lord, heard by Brahma. Or Brahma spoken, the sages are heard. This is Shruti. So in one sense, they hear, they repeat. They hear, they repeat. This comes in a succession. So simply, I orally listen, I pass it on. This is Shruti. Vedas, Upanishads are then related, Chandas, Aranyikas, and Brahmanas, whatever it is connected to those. Those are all Shruti. The Lord has spoken. The sages and others, they listen and they repeated, translated, or transmitted like that. This is Shruti. Smriti. Smriti means they heard, they understood, they meditated, internalized, unspoken with examples. With examples. So in other words, what happens is they added, sometimes people say Shruti is adulterated or diluted or something. Not necessarily, because sometimes we may not understand Vedas as it is. What if Vedas were spoken in such a way that with a lot of examples? Then it is easy to understand. How many of us qualified to listen Vedas? I believe none. So Vedas were translated in such a way that we all can understand. That is nothing but Mahabharata. Mahabharata is nothing but Panchama Veda. Panchama Veda. So Mahabharata is a Shruti. And from Mahabharata, we got Gita. Gita is part of Mahabharata. In one sense, Mahabharata is the source of Gita, which is Shruti. So Gita is also Shruti. So in one sense, we can say this is a Shruti in Smriti. This is a Shruti in Smriti. This is part of Mahabharata. So it has both. And very interestingly, every end of this chapter, Prabhupada has translated nicely. If you look at it here, the 46th verse, if you see, if you all remember it, this is the last verse. And if you look at it, every verse at the end, what do we see? Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport to the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of observing the ornaments. The same thing, if we translate or put it in a Sanskrit words, Om Tat Saditi. Anyone remember that? So if you look at it at the end, they says that Yoga Shastraya, Yoga Shastra. Why this is called Yoga Shastra? This is called Yoga Shastra. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Pradhamodhyayaha. This is how the chapter ends. Every chapter ends like this. So every chapter end, they says this is Yoga Shastra. Why this is called Yoga Shastra? Any guesses from anyone, or anyone know the answer? Why we call this as Yoga Shastra? Anyone know? Why Bhagavad Gita is called Yoga Shastra?
It explains about all Ashtanga Yoga. Prabhu?
If it is explaining about all Ashtanga Yoga, why can't we say Ashtanga Yoga instead of Yoga Shastra? Is it speaking only Ashtanga Yoga? Or
Yeah, yoga ladder and all will be explained, right, Prabhuji, in between, in
So
further
yoga,
chapters.
yeah. So I have a different explanation, right? Yoga means plus or union, right? Where we are. These are different ways how we unite with Krishna or the Almighty Soul, right? So different karma yoga, bhakti yoga, different ways to unite with the Godhead. That's what I guess.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Keep those thoughts in mind. Yes, that is a wonderful one. Let's discuss a little bit more. Anyone have a different opinion or any other definitions? I think Neelima Mataji or Sharada Mataji or someone. Anyone have a different answers?
Yeah,
Prab-
remembering and meditating on what Krishna said, Prabhuji.
Then why we call it as Yoga Shastra?
Prabhuji, according to my understanding, like Yoga Shastra, because as Prabhuji mentioned, Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, like step by step, we have to have the knowledge of all these yogas to finally achieve Bhakti Yoga to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes. Yes. So all answers are correct. So in one sense, this knowledge was given for us to connect with Krishna. We get lost, Arjuna lost. So Krishna is giving this knowledge. Through this knowledge, we get connect. Right? The very first verse or the very first introduction, you said, Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya. Gnana, by the knowledge of torch. The torch of knowledge. We are in the dark and ignorance. We don't know the path. By the knowledge or the torch of knowledge, we are able to see the path. So this path leads to Krishna. So it is the union, connection to Krishna. So what is the word? Yoke. Yog. So if you look at it in English also, yoke. What is yoke actually? If anyone familiar with the bullock carts or something, the two bulls will be tied through a yoke. So we are also together. That means ourself and Krishna. We are all together with yoga. Yoga. By practicing this yoga, we connected to Krishna. Krishna himself said this one. This is the very first verse of 7th chapter. The very first verse of 7th chapter. Yogam yunjan madashraya. So Krishna himself said. So if we look at it, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu also took some statistics of this word called yoga. So if you look at it, yoga, yogi, yog, if we take all these words, this word of yoga comes at least 155 times in this Bhagavad Gita. That is 20% of all these words, special words. So in the verses, if you look at the verses, 700 verses, in the 700 verses, 155 times means that is more than or roughly 20%. Now we can clearly see what this entire Bhagavad Gita is trying to do. Yoga Shastra. This is a Shastra, science of yoga. So it is giving us the facility or the knowledge to connect it to Krishna. How to? As I think Krishna Prabhu and Mataji mentioned, it is giving various options. Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, all sorts of yogas it is giving, whatever level one get connected to. Get connected to Krishna, ultimately. This is the whole idea. That is why this is called Yoga Shastra. Now we established everything. Now look into more deep in this first chapter. So in this first chapter, we have 46 verses. So if we look at it, all these verses 1 to 25, 1 to 25 are in 26 actually. 1 to 25 or 26, we see the setup of the war, and Arjuna observing this battle, right? First, the setup of the war, up to 1 to 7 or 10 verses, it says that, right? 10 verses, 1 to 10, I believe. Yeah. So what it says, who were all presented? Bhishma, Drona. Before even there, he first gave who are all the heroes on the Pandava side, right? All Pandavas and, sons of Subhadra, sons of Draupadi, and, all Drupada, Drishtadyumna, all this, Satyaki, all these people were given, right? On the second, he gave the sides of Duryodhana. So he explained it to Dronacharya. And then what? After 10 verses, then Bhishma, he blow his conch shell, encouraging, and then everyone follows, right? Bhishma, and then Krishna, Arjuna, Dharmaraja, and then rest of the people. All are blown their conch shells. And then what happened? By looking at all of this, and then Arjuna asked, "Oh Krishna, now take this chariot to the middle of it." Isn't it? Even in fact, he demanded, like basically, he demanded Krishna, you take me there. It's like as if he is the master and Krishna is the servant. In fact, that is how Arjuna spoke. Oh, this is not like, oh Krishna, please take me there or something. There is no such thing here. So, Senayor Obayor Madhye Radham Stapayamechita. So please take my chariot to the middle. So Krishna took, especially here. What is it is here? Says that in the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all other chieftains of the world, the Lord said, see this? The Lord said, just behold, Partha, all the Kurus are assembled here. Right? This is the first portion. This is what Arjuna is checking it. Now the second portion of these verses, 27th to the remaining verses, what do we see? We see first Arjuna's compassion, right? Oh, who are all the people? Then he started counting. Oh, grandfathers, teachers, his father equals, and in-laws, and sons, grandsons, uncles, all the people he saw, his compassion, he saw it. And then what happened? He saw all of them, and then he is overwhelmed, isn't it? He is overwhelmed. And he said, he remembered the family relationships. He come up with saying that I cannot enjoy killing them. What sort of man if I am, if I kill them and enjoy them, isn't it? Now, the only choice for him is, if he wants to enjoy that kingdom, he must kill Bhishma, he must kill Dronacharya, he must kill Duryodhana, right? Without killing them, there is no way Pandavas can enjoy it. But they're all, what is his name? Pujar Havar Sudana. Those are the words he used it, isn't it? So Bhishma, Drona, they are the persons which I worship. How can I kill them, Krishna? These are the words of him. So he is showing his unwillingness to not to fight, or his willingness not to fight. He said, I don't want to fight because I don't want to any kingdom. Then what happens? So he gave up kingdom. He said, I don't want any kingdom. Then did he stop it there? No. He went on speaking about breaking the family traditions. First he is talking about dharma, First dharma. Dharma, he is speaking about the dharma. What is this dharma? What is this dharma he is speaking about? The dharma he is speaking about, especially we all follow dharma. We all follow dharma, right? How the dharma will exist? How the dharma will exist? Dharma only exists when everything works around, is it not? Say, for example, one side all super rich, one side all super poor. Can the dharma exist in such conditions? One side is super poor, one side is super rich. What happens? Always there is a fight. Always there is a fight because there is a lot of gap in between. There is a lot of gap in between. Now, this is exactly what is going to happen. This war, he is going to kill all possible men exist are fighting in the war. Then who is left? Only old people, children, women. Old people, children, women. Now what happened? Who will feed them? Who is the bread earning member in that family? All the bread earning members were killed in the war. Then what happens? Then what happened? Everywhere, all women will come out onto the streets. They start working outside. Then what happened? Then things will be completely out of hand. Out of hand. Have we seen nowadays we are working on a level of equals, right? In every company we say that women, men, there is no gender as far as company is concerned. If anyone refused a job based on a gender, then that is a discrimination and we can file a case. Those laws were already there throughout the world. Of course, there are still some countries are there, but we are talking in general. In general, we are talking about. But this was not the case. This was not the case. So Arjuna is expecting all these things. This is what is going to happen. This is what is going to happen. Now what happened? Unwanted children. Children supposed to be wanted, isn't it? How much the family enjoys by bringing a child into the world. We celebrate their birthdays in a grand manner, isn't it? But what happened? When father, there is no earning member, there is nothing, then they came onto the streets, then all the children that was born are unwanted. How pitiable condition is that one? A child who came to the world is unwanted. Then where does he go? What sort of treatment he gets into in the society? This is how, if we look at it today's world, how many orphans throughout the world? Unlimited number of orphans are there. Unlimited number of orphans are there. Especially if you look at it, some countries, where these wars are going on, constant wars are going on. What are the children doing? Instead of going to the schools, they are taking arms, weapons in their hands and serving as the messengers, couriers. Children are doing that. Many countries. Why? Because if the things are not in an order properly, this is how it is going to happen. So that is why Arjuna refused to fight and to kill all of his relatives. Then what happened? He spoke about all this. Then he said what? Family traditions. The most important family traditions. If any person cause a family tradition or he breaks the family tradition, what happens? Shastras, it says, his destination is hell. There is no way to escape. Even today, we can see this one, especially this is, put it in the wrong way. I can give an example, but this is in a wrong way. For example, Brahmana community. We all know that Brahmana community, they are soft, sattvika. They born in the mood of goodness. Samo dhamas tapas saucham, shantirajjavam evacha, jnanam vijnanam astikyam, brahma karma swabhavajam. This is the nature of a Brahmana. This nature of a Brahmana, what happens today's world? They are meat eating, they are drinking, they are gambling, they are having all sorts of relationship. This is what is called breaking family traditions. So this sort of things will happen. So Arjuna is telling that I am going to be the cause for all these traditions were broken. And for sure, I go to hell. I don't want it. I don't want to be the reason to all the dharma goes in drain. So the whole idea of Arjuna is two. One, he don't want to kill his relatives and enjoy the kingdom. Two, he is thinking that by killing all these people or able people, bread earning members, then what happens? Completely everyone is destroyed, the traditions, everything. Now what happened? All the men died, the remaining people are children and women and old people, and they cannot do this, what is this? Funeral rites, Shraddha Karakram, right? Shraddha Karakram, sorry, I said Shraddha. Shraddha Karakram, right? This Pitru Karma or Pinda Pradhana, these are the words, right? Who will do that? Where do they get money? Where do they get the money? There is no money there. So if there is no money, who will perform? If they don't perform, where all these Pitrus will go? Or the Pitrus were already there, left, what do happen to them? So this is especially very, very, important for, whoever follows these Vedas, rituals, customs. There is no other way, to get these things properly. So what happens? By thinking all of it, Arjuna, he said, I cannot fight. Even though Duryodhana did all wrong, what Duryodhana didn't do, we all know that, right? Every possible situation Duryodhana tried to harm Pandavas. He gave poison, he burned their home, he mistreated Draupadi, and he tried to win over single person over all of them. He sent them all to this forest, and he tried to be eaten by all these demons. He cheated in gambling. So every possible way, whatever all the things there, he tried, implemented it on Pandavas. They are aggressors. And in Vedas it says any aggressor can be killed freely without any sin incurred. We won't get any sin. That is why I don't know if you remember 50 years back, or at least I still remember 50 years back, in villages there are no police stations, nothing. If someone get caught stealing something, they will, or he will be beaten to death. He'll be beaten to death. I have seen with my own eyes when I was a boy, I still remember distinctly. Of course, he didn't get killed, but he was beaten to pulp like anything, because it happened right exactly behind my home. He is stealing something, he was caught. He's like 25 years, I think, something like that, when I was like around 10 years or something. So he was tied to a coconut tree, put his hands behind the tree and tied it. Then everyone took sticks, almost all villages there. Everyone beaten him to like pulp. This is what is going to happen. So Arjuna, even though Duryodhana is such a bad person, I don't want to break any traditions. I don't want it to be the reason to the dharma to go, disturbed. I don't want it to be the reason for any of this. Even though Duryodhana wishes to fight, even though all the members of Duryodhana's side, even they wants to kill me. He finally said what? Even though they kill me without having any weapons in my hand. Normally, what do we do? When we don't have weapon in our hand, even he is an enemy, we'll let him go. That is dharma, kshatriya dharma. When an enemy drop his weapon, then he consider he is defeated, consider he is dead. So he'll be left free. But here, Arjuna is even going beyond. Even Duryodhana wants to kill me. When I don't have weapon in my hand, I'm still fine with it. That means we can clearly see how determined Arjuna is to not to fight. So here, we need to clearly understand. In the very beginning, when Arjuna and Krishna entered into the battlefield, this was not the mood of Arjuna. Arjuna is happy, enjoying. He has no doubts. He will get the victory. So he is enjoying, and he is coming with Krishna. What happened exactly? They both are thinking the same. So Arjuna is standing in the chariot or sitting in the chariot. Krishna, as a charioteer driver, he is there. They both are in the same chariot, and they both are thinking the same. They are in yoga. They are connected. They are thinking exactly the same. Now what happened? In the middle of the war, or in the middle, Arjuna changed. From yoga to, he went to Viyoga. Viyoga is separated. Now his thoughts are separated. His thoughts are separated from Krishna, isn't it? Krishna wants this war. Now Arjuna don't want to. So he is deviating from the thoughts of Krishna. He is deferring Krishna. This is Viyoga. Now what happened? To bring Arjuna back to yoga, then Krishna is giving this knowledge. Isn't it? This is where it started. This is where it started. Arjuna spoke here. Now, if we look at the end of Bhagavad Gita, 73rd verse, 73rd verse, Arjuna repeats the same. What did he say that time? Now, he says, Nasto moha smritir labda tvat prasadat mayachyuta stitosmi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tava. What did he said? O Krishna, all my doubts, all the things have been cleared. Now I am steady. No oscillations or no back and forth ideas, no doubts. I am firm, determined. Karishye vachanam tava. Now you tell me, I will follow your word. This is like a final resolution of Arjuna. That means he came back. So what happens? They both are in union in the very beginning. In between, Arjuna deviated and then Krishna brought him back. This is exactly what is our life, isn't it? We were with Krishna, we love Krishna, we like Krishna, we differed in the middle, now we are suffering, and for the mercy of devotees, we are trying to go back. Trying to go back. If we sincerely follow like Arjuna, sincerely listen like Arjuna, we do go 100% back. Lot of times we hear that, oh, that is Krishna spoken to Arjuna. We don't have Krishna now. No, wrong. Krishna is also presented now in the form of Gita. If we sincerely listen to Gita, 100% we can go back. This is what Krishna is speaking. Gita Mahatmya is clearly telling that this is Krishna. He is in Gita. Yatra Gita vicharasya patanam patanam shrutam. Wherever there is a discussion of Gita, sincerely discussing, listening, then what happened? Tatraham, there I am. Tatraham, nischitam, for sure. The Lord is telling, Tatraham, nischitam, for sure I am. Nivasami, sadaivahi. I live there. That means the Lord is there in Gita. 100%. So, if we are sincere like Arjuna, then Krishna is there. And we do achieve victory like Arjuna. That is why the last concluded verse of Bhagavad Gita is what? Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Pardo Dhanurdaraha, Tatra Shri Vijayor Bhutir, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. That is the last verse of Bhagavad Gita. What did it say? Wherever Krishna is there, wherever Arjuna is there, for sure there is opulence, victory, morals, everything is there. What does it mean by having Krishna and Arjuna? That means If we sincerely, seriously study Bhagavad Gita, that is Krishna. If we are doing it, that is Arjuna. If these two things exist, then our life is having this victory, morals, opulence, happiness, everything exists. That is what it is. So at the end of first chapter, what is the conclusion? The conclusion, he dropped Gandiva and he sat down on the chariot. So if you see, what is the last verse? Eva muktarjana sankhe radhopast upavishad vishrujja sacharam chapam soka samvigna manasaha. Vishrujja, he gave up the weapons. He gave up the weapons. As we discussed earlier, once we drop our weapons, that is a sign, indication that I am done. So he sat down. Especially sat down means this is not sitting it, kind of. So it is basically his energy is completely drained out. There is no energy left. He simply fell down on the seat, let's say. Instead of sitting, he simply fell down on the seat. So that is where it is stopped. Now, second chapter onwards, we will see. That is where Krishna really started speaking. Especially the second chapter is a very, very wonderful chapter. And it's called summary. He says that Prabhupada especially uses the word called summary. And we will see why it is called summary of. Okay. Contents of Gita summarized. That means what exactly? If we seriously study second chapter, we can get what do we have in the remaining chapters too. A lot of times people ask, especially why this chapter is all of a sudden has appeared while the remaining chapters are there. Why it is summarized? Normally what do? We summarize at the end of it, right? We don't summarize the very beginning of it. We summarize after 18 chapters. This chapter, technically speaking, supposed to be the 18th chapter, because this is where we summarize. This is supposed to be the 18th chapter instead of the second chapter. So our Acharyas explains are many reasons why this was there. And especially we will discuss all this starting next week, and we will read about the the benefits of second chapter reading and all of it. So I will stop it here, and let's see if we have any comments and questions from anyone for a few minutes. So I will stop recording.